For as long as I've been able to play video games, watch TV, or simply think, I have always had a soft spot for the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. From playing Colin McRae Rally 3, where I would try out the Evo 7 in the game non-stop, to playing and dominating the career modes in Need for Speed Underground 2, Most Wanted and Carbon with the Evo 8 and 9, only cementing the Evo as an obtainable dream car of mine ever since. However, when you look back at the entire lineup of Evos, there is a strange elephant in the room. I am of course talking about the Mitsubishi Evo 10, the final generation of this car's incredible legacy. A car which was more advanced, refined and quicker than ever, but also more hated than ever. The Evo 10 appears to be a weak point in the Evo family tree, criticised in almost every area, and as a result it isn't as desirable or as appreciated as much as it possibly could be. So in today's video, we're going to be putting on our rally art jackets, booting up Need for Speed Pro Street and asking ourselves, why does everyone hate the Mitsubishi Evo 10? To start off, we must go back to where it all began for the Evo. In the 1980s, Mitsubishi were developing a Group B rally monster, based on their Starion Coupe. But when Group B was banned for being too dangerous, Mitsubishi pivoted. They took the car's soul, an advanced four-wheel drive system and the legendary iron block engine called the 4G63, and then they stuffed it into the Galant, and later on, the Lancer chassis. This birthed a monster. Between 1992 and 2006, the Evo became a rally-bred icon, winning 4 straight WRC titles with Tommy Mäkinen, and dominating pop culture in Too Fast Too Furious and its follow-up, Tokyo Drift. By the time the Evo 9 arrived, the recipe was perfect, a raw mechanical no-frills street legal rally car, powered by that bulletproof 4G63 engine. It was considered the peak, but in 2007, for the 10th and final generation, Mitsubishi decided to build it from the ground up on an all-new platform. And the changes were dramatic. Taking the Evo's design away from Japan for the first time, the car was designed by Omer, him, who was part of Mitsubishi's European design studio at the time, who would later go on to help design cars such as the Skoda Superb and Skoda Enyaq, as well as other regular cars such as the Ferrari F12 and the LaFerrari. However, the design wasn't the Evo 10's biggest talking piece, it was its engine. For the first and only time, the Evo 10 was not powered by a 4G63, a 20-year legacy gone. In its place was the 4B11T. The 4B11T became a headache for tuners as they had spent a lot of money and many years tuning and refining their parts for the 4G63. For years, it was a guarantee that the Evo would use it, but the 4B11T meant that they would have to start all over again. The 4B11 also had an issue related to the block. The old 4G63 had an iron block, and so it was a bit heavy, but it was legendary for its bulletproof reliability and ability to handle massive amounts of boost and power as high as 700 horsepower on stock internals. The 4B11T on the other hand was an all aluminium engine. While it was lighter, more efficient and had better low-end torque, the aluminium blocks were generally less desirable for extreme tuning. Anything above 500 brake horsepower would require engine sleeving and other major modifications to avoid issues. So for the high horsepower hunters, the Evo 10 was a no-go. Despite these criticisms, the 4B11T is still regarded as a very good engine that makes respectable power and is pretty reliable too. The new chassis that Mitsubishi used was drastically different too. The 10 was longer, wider, and worst of all, heavier than the previous Evo 9, mainly due to new road safety rules that the car had to meet, as well as Mitsubishi opting for a stiffer chassis. The Evo 10 is an impressive 150 kilograms heavier than the outgoing Evo 9, resulting in a car that wasn't as nimble to drive compared to its predecessor. Although the 10 wasn't as flickable to drive on a back road, the car was also slightly slower to 60 as well. But it's all relevant to time and place. Some outlets said the Evo 10 was faster, others said the Evo 9 was. However, where the Evo 10 shone was in the corners and on the brakes. The Evo 10 was tested by Edmunds back in the day, and they proved that the car had a higher lateral grip, which matched the original Audi R8. The Evo 10 also had better stopping distances compared to the Evo 9 as well. proving it was technically a more capable chassis, proving that the weight gain wasn't all bad. As for the four-wheel drive system, it only got better, as SAWC was introduced, known as Super All-Wheel Control. This wasn't just a standard all-wheel drive system, it integrated several components such as active center differential, active yaw control, active stability control, and anti-lock brakes to control the power sent to each wheel. It was beneficial because it took a heavier, more comfortable car and gave it supercar level grip and braking performance, making it technically superior to the Evo 9 in a track environment, even if it lost some of the analog feeling that purists crave. When the Evo 10 was launched, some purists felt betrayed by the gearbox options. There was a 5-speed manual which was available almost exclusively to the GSR models. The 5-speed was a staple for the Evo. It had a nice feeling, but it was also a robust gearbox, so it naturally was the preferred driver's choice. However, what split the market was the all-new SST dual clutch automatic gearbox. This was a fast-shifting, split-personality 6-speed box with excellent looking paddle shifters, I have to say. But an automatic in an Evo? Sounds sacrilegious, right? Even though autos had been available in the Evo 7 GTA and the Evo 9 wagon, diehards felt that the Evo 10 had an identity crisis. For a car known for being a raw and visceral driving machine, moving towards an automatic transmission felt like the car was losing its rough and ready nature. To make matters worse, many early SST units failed very early on. Some suffered from overheating issues, resulting in the SST earning a reputation for being fragile and expensive to fix. The SST was available worldwide, and it was available in the US under the MR guise. In the UK, all of the FQ models of the Evo 10 offered the SST except for the FQ360 and the class-topping FQ400 model. But to some surprise, the Evo 10 sold well with the complicated SST, outselling the manual, which wasn't without its flaws. If you planned to make a refined car, then why the hell did you keep the 5-speed? Surely a 6-speed was a more sensible choice, while cruising on the motorway and having sensible revs. However, it is believed that this was probably to improve the selling point for the SST, resulting in more sales towards that gearbox. Was it intentionally done? Probably. Although, past 6-speed transmissions in Evos are known for not being as reliable and a bit more blowy upbeat than the previous 5-speeds. The SST also wasn't capable of supporting big power, although somehow Mitsubishi themselves got 440 horsepower out of the thing in the very limited FQ440 model, which is still the most powerful non-hybridized 4-cylinder ever made. With the Evo 10, Mitsubishi tried to make a better all-rounder and potentially a stronger one-car solution by making it more livable. But the refinement backfired with the die-hard Evo fans. The first issue was the interior, which was definitely a step up from past Evos, but the Evo 10 was still filled with cheap plastics, losing the Spartan feel from earlier models while also failing to meet the goal of refinement. Fans also hated how the Evo 10 looked. Past Evos were boxy, aggressive and hostile, cars that looked like they would smash your head in if you looked at them funny. They were purebred hooligans. The 10 on the other hand became a lot more subtle looking. While keeping some of the aggression, fans felt they went too far, although I personally think the Evo 10 looks great, and it's a car that has aged gracefully well. The Evos through 1 to 9 were essentially 5-seater rally cars for the street that sacrificed daily comfort for performance. However, with the 10, Mitsubishi intentionally pushed towards refinement and daily drivability, a double-edged sword, as while it made it a better car for the average person, it alienated the hardcore fans who wanted the go-kart feel of the older models. The car still had its dose of Evo-ness within it. It drinks fuel like an alcoholic, it still has a desperate turning circle, and it still has a boy racer spoiler at the back and an aggressive front bonnet with vents. And it's still a very clever machine underneath. It just wasn't sure where it wanted to be, putting it in the middle of nowhere. So that begs the question, does the Evo 10 deserve all the hate? Well, I think the Evo 10 was definitely running against the wind. Following up with the legendary Evo 9 and introducing the 4B11T resulted in a car that definitely wasn't to everyone's taste. However, when the Evo 10 launched, the days of the homologation special rally car for the road were long gone. The car technically didn't need to exist anymore after 2000, but Mitsubishi did it anyway. It's like the R35 GTR, the Honda NSX, and Mark V Supra later in life. All of these cars were praised but also criticised for being different to their counterparts. The GTR went from a manual inline-6 twin-turbo to a bespoke semi-automatic V6 twin-turbo with 200 more brake horsepower than the R34 under the gentleman's agreement. And it also had a much larger price tag. The Supra remained similar to its predecessor, but they used a more reliable, tunable BMW-sourced V58 engine to cut costs on the car while it was being developed in collaboration with BMW on the shared platform with their Z4. But this still upset fans as they didn't make their own twin-turbo inline-6. That potentially may not have been as good, and also would have cost more to develop, therefore the car would have cost more to make and it would have cost more to sell. As for the NSX, the original recipe went completely out the window in favour of a capable modern supercar with an environmental conscience. These cars all had to change their approach due to a changing market and demands from governments and customers. These cars of the past were amazing, but they simply could not be made anymore due to a change in the world's landscape, and so the Evo 10 was a victim of this change. In Ireland, due to emissions for example, only 5 Evo 10s were ever officially sold here, so if you wanted one, you had around 5 to 6 months in 2008 to find one, because any time after that meant instead of paying €710 a year no tax, you'll be paying €2,400 per year.
What the f?
However, as a younger person, I absolutely adore these. Seeing Ryo Watanabe's Evo 10 made him the coolest villain ever in my 10-year-old eyes. Although nowadays I have veered towards the Evo 8 as my dream Evo, I still appreciate the Evo 10 as it was one of the final 4 generations I grew up with. You still never see Evo 10s as much, and that's why I always appreciate seeing one every time I do. Perfectly standard or modified ones generally look great. It blows my mind that these are 18 years old now, and they're also more affordable, making them a discreet budget JDM weapon that only a select few will know about. Although things changed with the Evo 10, the recipe remained the same. Although softer, it still had a clever 4-wheel drive system, a powerful turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, a silly rear wing, and by all means compared to the modern day slop we see today, the Evo 10 still had an attitude about it. So to conclude, does the Evo 10 deserve all the hate? Well, as an Evo fan, I think the Evo 10 is just as much of an Evo as the previous generations, so maybe you should give it a bit more slack. And so, what do you think? If you think I'm right, let me know. If you think I'm a total bozo, let me know down in the comments below and prove me wrong. I haven't driven an Evo ever, but I would love to, so if you got one of them, and if you're brave enough, get in touch if you really want to prove me wrong. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, share and subscribe, and hit that bell icon for future uploads. And finally, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you had a good Easter, and I especially hope to see you all very soon.